Do hashtag spin joking maybe.
I mean, not common, but you see it every once in a while.
Miss Butts? Wasn't
That
that like
would be one that
Wasn't
would
that
be lucky to, and so we
No,
Hey everyone, it's Sleepy Reader, aka Damien. Another episode of my comic book diary. I tend to call these videos either my comic book thoughts or my comic book countdown, because they are both of those. I'm drinking this beer, which seems to be pretty good. Another IPA, this time from a place called the Fremont Brewery in Seattle on the planet Earth. I'm quite liking it. I probably picked it up at Trader Joe's, if I'm remembering correctly. And it says, because beer matters. Focus? I don't know. Does beer really matter? I guess it does. I could live without beer more easily than I could live without comics. So this past week, I read 12 comics that came out on Wednesday. This is Tuesday night, and so tomorrow more new comics will be coming out. So I'm glad I read all of these. I can enjoy the next batch of comics without feeling any pressure. Keeping up on a weekly basis really helps me enjoy comics in a single issue format. If I couldn't keep up, then maybe trades would make more sense. But as long as this format helps me keep up, and it's not like work, it would be like work if I let things slide, and then I have too many comics piling up, and I feel guilty about buying ones that I'm not reading. So anyway, in at number 12 this week was Thor 15, and it wasn't at all a bad comic. There's a different artist that I don't know. It says guest artist, Michael Bandini, along with Donny Cates, who's been doing this comic for quite a while and doing a good job on it. But somehow, I don't know, it felt kind of like the energy went out for me. And I don't know if it's the art or if Donny Cates is saving up his energy for some other... like maybe this is a shorter arc with this guest artist, and he's saving up his energy for some other big thing. It almost passed through my mind. This has been on my pull list for quite a while, maybe since this Thor run started, and it passed through my mind to cancel it from my pull list because I just didn't care one way or the other as I read this. Thor as king of Asgard apparently perhaps has to give up Mjolnir, his hammer, and someone else worthy needs to pick it up. Feels like we've had other people picking up the hammer before, so it doesn't, I don't know. At the moment, I don't see where it's going that is particularly interesting, and it may be one of those things where I've just read too many Thor comics, just the way I have trouble sometimes with Batman, where I've read too many Batman comics. We'll see. I'll probably let it slide, and hopefully this arc isn't too long. But I'm curious to see. I've enjoyed so much of Donny Cates' work on Thor so much. So far, I might as well keep going. I also enjoyed the Maneaters of Zambulia. But as I was reading it, I remembered reading the Marvel Comics version that was in Savage Sword of Conan, illustrated by Neil Adams. And so this doesn't live up to that level. The art's not bad. It's sort of hurt by the coloring, and I think the coloring is done by the artist. And the artist is also the writer. Of course, this is translated, and I don't see who the translator is, but the writer-artist is called Guess, and no colorist is mentioned, so I presume that he did his own coloring. It's pretty simple coloring, and I appreciate simple coloring, but somehow it doesn't aid his artwork that much. And there are aspects of his artwork I like quite well, and aspects I don't. As a story, and it's from a Robert E. Howard story. As a story, it has more of the uneasy feeling of 1930s or late 1920s racism than most Conan stories. I mean, it's always there, I suppose, subtly. But there's talk of mixed race people, and there's cannibal black slaves who eat visitors to the city. So it's okay. I'll probably get the whole run. It'll probably just be 3 issues or something. But yeah, so I put that in at number 11 out of like the 12. Maybe I should have ranked the Thor higher, but there was something there. There was some fun aspect, something to chew on. Coming in kind of low for me at number 10 was Eve number 3. I really loved Eve number 1 and 2, and somehow it felt a little more standard. It's a post-apocalyptic thing where we have Eve as the young girl who's been raised kind of in a virtual world and then now is sent out by her father, who lives with a bunch of scientists up in a satellite, to save the world, which has become totally toxic. And I don't know, maybe the art wasn't quite as good either. Just it felt kind of standard, and it felt like we're just I don't know. There was a intriguing twist right at the end where it was revealed who this character is, although it feels like the kind of revelation I've seen in a lot of Image comics before. So it just felt a little more like a standard Image sci-fi comic in a way, if that makes sense. Which is still a good thing. I mean, I love sci-fi, but when things become familiar, they just fall. They don't rise to the top of my little list here. Another one that was sci-fi was Silver Coin number 4, this time written by Jeff Lemire. And at first I was really excited by it because, again, I'm a huge sci-fi fan, maybe more than straightforward horror. And Michael Walsh's art shifted a little bit here. I heard one person comparing it to Dave Gibbons. I don't know if I would have thought of that. But anyway, it takes on a different tone. And maybe this is a bit of a 2000 AD sort of story with a very dystopian future and a world of violent criminals and violent cops. But it does make the coin a little more important, the silver coin that is the driver, because every issue of the Silver Coin is just a short horror story which features the silver coin somehow activating the horror. But I think in the end, I was disappointed, despite the really good art and kind of a cool setting, because I just didn't fully. I guess I understood what happened, but it just didn't have impact. The twist or what have you didn't have impact, and it felt somehow cheated. How the character seemed to be in one place and then be in another place to commit more havoc. I think sort of the ending of the story is more havoc is going to be committed. And it just felt cheated enough that I don't know. So I put that in at number 9. It was fun to read. I think a bunch of these Silver Coin stories, the art of the short story is really hard. And each one, a lot of them felt like they were missing a step or two to me. And I also wondered if, he got, Michael Walsh is the artist who does the art in every issue, and he got a lot of top writers to work with him. But I wonder if those top writers were giving their all to this series, or whether they were kind of doing some throwaway work. Well, it's sort of fun. I'll do this with my friend as a favor to my friend Michael Walsh, but I'm not gonna give away my A material, perhaps. Although I think Chip Zdarsky, of all of the ones, Chip Zdarsky's was the best for me so far. Then, I've switched things around from my list in my pile. But so coming in at number 8, I'm putting Skybound X. So the next few ones I kept shuffling around, not being able to decide what order to put them in. So I guess they were all kind of equal in my mind. But Skybound X, no individual story in here really added up to a whole lot. And one of them I didn't even read, and which seems to be the case in each issue of Skybound X. But the cumulative effect was I had a pretty good time reading Skybound X. There was the next chapter in this very silly Rick Grimes 2000, And I would get more out of it if I had followed The Walking Dead beyond the first trade or two, but that's all I ever read. So the revelations of, this character shows up and then that character shows up, for the most part, they're not characters that I recall because I read the first few trades a bazillion years ago. But it's still kind of fun, just the ultra violence. It seems like an ultra violent version of some 1970s cheesy sci-fi comic, such as Killraven or I don't know, Morlock 2000 or something. And then the reason why each issue I find a real reason to buy it. The reason I really bought it was because I'm a big Birthright fan. And this was a fun little Birthright interlude. It felt like it could have been a story set in any fantasy land in a sense. Our hero meets up with Death and has a bit of a conversation with him. But we get a little more view of the world of Terranos and of this brother's Brennan of Brennan's adventures in Terranos, and I'm interested in that, so that was fun. And the art by Andre, I forget his name now. Andre Bresson, who apparently is from Brazil. I'm starting to notice a lot of artists that I like that are in comics here in the U.S. are actually from Brazil. That's interesting. And then the one I didn't read, or maybe I'll read later, is Machine Boy. And I guess they're introducing a new character, Machine Boy, and I just was turned off by the art style. And I had plenty of other comics to read, and I didn't buy this to read Machine Boy. And then they had a little Stillwater story, which I thought was quite good and reminded me that I need to circle back and read Stillwater. I think I read the first 2 or 3 issues, and then stopped reading Stillwater, just figured I would eventually read it on Hoopla or something like that. But the art and the color looked very nice here, and the theme, maybe I would enjoy reading this in trades more, this Stillwater in trades more than I did in individual issues, because the theme is a long ongoing theme about what do you do with immortality in a sense. So this was a cool little take on it. I think the Stillwater one was probably my favorite in here. So that was Skybound X in at number 8. And then I'm putting the Secret Land in at number 7. This was one that was hard to decide on. This cover is beautiful, and I think it's by the interior artist Thomas Aria. I don't see any credit for a cover artist, so I'm assuming it's him. But the story in here, it's about Nazis, and it's got a kind of in the background a kind of H.P. Lovecraft shtick going on, and star-crossed lovers and undercover spies. So it's fun stuff. If you're not sick of Nazis, I suppose. But the art is perfunctory, I think. Like the artist was kind of scrambling to get it done. And I noted on the first issue that it's only copyright by the writer, not by the artist. And so I think they haven't included the artist in the artist isn't as deeply committed to this. It's a job that he needs to get done for a certain amount of money in a certain amount of time. I don't blame him at all. But I think he's probably, judging by the cover, I think, and also my memories of the first issue. I remember in the first issue I thought some of the art looked good and some of it looked hasty. And in this issue, more of the art looks hasty. And the lettering seemed like, I kept noticing in the caption boxes, the lettering didn't have enough space around it in the caption boxes. It just didn't seem positioned well. I mean, that's an odd thing to notice, but I kept noticing that. And I'm not sure if I'm even being fair, but it seemed to bother me. And I think the story and the writing are pretty good. I think if the writer were, there's still a roughness to it, like maybe another draft would have made it even better. If the writer were totally brilliant instead of just really good, then maybe it wouldn't matter what the art was like. But generally, I'm enjoying this story. But it kind of jumped me out of the reading experience every once in a while. This the art or the lettering. So that's why it's not higher, but it's doing pretty well at number 7. In at number 6, and I kind of wondered, do I want to put Secret Land above this or below it, just like with Skybound X. But I think I enjoyed and had a more meaty read with Batman Detective, written by Tom Taylor, who everyone rightly points out is one of DC's best writers, and I guess he's done good work at Marvel too. I haven't read his Marvel work, and DC should keep using him a lot. And the Andy Kubert art was really good, although I still have trouble with his portrayal of a middle-aged Bruce Wayne. He just looks so brutal. I suppose the rationale is in essence he's a street fighter, but still, I don't know. He doesn't seem disguised as a playboy, billionaire playboy at all. He just looks like someone who's a professional mixed martial arts fighter or something in older years. But it had some interesting plot twists and, as I said, great art. And Tom Taylor's pacing he's a master of good superhero comics pacing. And so it was an enjoyable read, and I think I would rank it even higher if it didn't have, and it is a bit different than I guess because of the middle age or late middle age quality of Batman and some of the other aspects of it, the fact that it kind of is globetrotting, a bit different than other Batman stories. But there's still that sense of something that bothers me in a lot of modern Batman stories, which is that they're too big. This one is smaller, I guess, than some things when everyone in Gotham is about to be Jokerized or something. But the main plot that everybody he ever saved throughout the career of his history is slowly being killed off. That's a lot of people have been already killed in this comic. And the seemingly Batman's work is undone. Like his entire career is in the process of being undone. That is huge. So it's kind of, on a personal level, it's kind of apocalyptic. And so I wish he saw a pattern of 10 or 20 people that he saved being killed instead of hundreds and hundreds of people have already been killed who are people he's saved over the years. Just because the loss is so big. So the loss is so big so that it feels like this is the end of the final capper of Batman's career period, in a negative way, unfortunately. Okay, at number 5, I put Oblivion Song, and I guess is there just 3 issues left, and there's interest. So the creatures from Oblivion have invaded Earth, and there's 3 or 4 strands of different characters we're following who are trying to tackle that problem in different ways, diplomatically, violently, scientifically. And how will all that interact and how will it all work out feels like it's going to be very interesting. The artists are not flagging at all here, both the colorist and the line artist. And the line artist, I think, is, part of the creative team, so to speak. He's listed as artist/creator along with Robert Kirkman, but this is one where I feel the color artist should be given creator credit too. But anyway, fabulous art team. Robert Kirkman's story engine is working very well here. I am bought all into this and interested to see how it all wraps up. I kind of lower my expectations in the sense, the buildup of a story is more interesting than the big battle. The Ragnarok of the story is less interesting than the building up the mythos before Ragnarok, so to speak. Not to confuse anyone, there's nothing Norse mythology in this. but just my analogy there. So anyway, great time reading this, and it kind of transcends in this issue anyway. Transcends the one problem I'd had in the past, where I had trouble telling the difference between different characters. Since each one is on a different track, doing different things, it's a little easier. In at number 4 is the 6 sidekicks of Trigger Keaton. Now, this issue did not wow me as much as issue 1. Issue 1 had just a great setup of all the different characters. And now we get kind of a bunch of different funny / scenes where they're in danger, but a bunch of different funny scenes. The reading of the will, the fighting with stuntmen who are out for revenge against Trigger Keaton. I guess they're taking it out on the sidekicks, and various things like that. A car chase. It's all fun to read. I guess I wish the coloring, which is also by the artist Schweizer, was a little more. I don't know. Did a little more. It's funny because I don't like coloring that's overdone, but it just seems a little underdone, and maybe it could have been a more exciting read with a little more variety in the color, and maybe a little easier at times. Like your eye just bounces off of scenes that are too monotone, and where the black lines don't stand out over the color. But so I enjoyed this, but in kind of a more minor key than issue 1. Did I make issue 1 a number 1? I can't remember now. But I loved issue 1, and I'm just having fun with issue 2. So I might have put it higher, I don't know, with different expectations. It's hard to say. But my top 3 were definitely my top 3 here anyway. And I decided to put in at number 3, Haha, because I enjoyed Haha a lot, but I also kind of... So here's how I feel about it. I feel like it's one of the weaker issues of Haha, except that it's pleasurable as a tie-in to Ice Cream Man, which this is the Ice Cream Man creative team now on this issue of Haha. Each issue of Haha, again, sort of like Silver Coin, was a short story, just connected by some kind of clown aspect. They weren't even all horror, although this one is definitely a horror story, shaped around depression and suicide, and sort of how are you seeing the world. It's almost perhaps like, so with all the experience of reading Ice Cream Man, this is more powerful, I guess was what I'm saying, than if you were only reading Haha. But it's almost a critique of I don't know if it really is of Prince himself, but it's sort of like, do I see the world like it's Ice Cream Man, or do I see a different world? And there's a pretty cool part near the end where, he looks through one eye and he sees the world aflame, which I think comes from or relates to the episode of Haha, which had 2 guys riding around, I think, in an ambulance and committing horrific crimes, and the city was on flames around, the suburbs were on flames around them. So he sees that, but then he looks through the other eye. Where is it? There. Maybe the world is really like this, and his depression makes him see this. It's not clear. And maybe when Prince, what's his full name? I always forget his full name. W. Maxwell Prince. When W. Maxwell Prince is writing Ice Cream Man, he's seeing the world through the eye that sees the carnage. But I think that we see a number of characters. I mean, here we see some characters from Haha, but we see a number of characters and situations that I think come from Ice Cream Man. Most definitively is this one, the guy who's dying of cancer, and there's the little creature that's slowly killing him, or he's dying of Alzheimer's, and the creature is slowly taking away his memories one by one. And I think this bus driver who's missing an eye, I think we saw him in another episode of Ice Cream Man. And there were some other things. So I'd almost say if you're a fan of Ice Cream Man and you haven't been reading Haha, just go ahead and buy Haha number 6, because it's kind of like another issue of Ice Cream Man that you probably want in your Ice Cream Man collection. If you've just been reading Haha, this might seem a little weird, but maybe it still holds together. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. But I think I was more in the mood for Norse mythology, which was, they don't even kind of tell you, but this was a continuation of the story from issue 1. So sometimes there are single issues, sometimes there's 2 stories in an issue, sometimes there are a 2-issue story. So it's too bad they don't kind of indicate that on the cover, because you could, or even on the inside, you could pick up individual copies of Norse mythology and have a good time. But it'd be good to know which ones you should have read the issue before. So this is all about the, basically the mead of poetry or something, of creativity, and the fight for it. And it was enjoyable, and there's something about the way something between P. Craig Russell and Neil Gaiman, the way they pace out the stories, and there's a certain amount of non-judgmental, non-moralizing distance they give to the stories. But then there's also a bit of a sense of humor and a bit of a wink and a nudge somewhere behind the stories too. If this one had a weakness, I'm less of a fan of this artist Matt Horak than some of the other artists they've had. Mostly, some of his panels are really good and kind of funny, and others just don't quite click with me. And there's a lot of times where I just felt like there should have been more detail in the background. But enjoyable stuff, and even a little wink and a nod to a bad poet who looks just like Neil Gaiman. So I enjoyed that touch too. But the best art is on the cover by P. Craig Russell himself, who just does the layouts on the inside. I hope there'll be a few more stories where P. Craig Russell does the full art. That would be really pleasurable. Or there was some where there was a penciler and then Craig Russell did the inking, I believe, and that's also an interesting thing. But the book I had the most fun with, that I put at number 1 out of the 12 books I read this week, was a book I knew nothing about called Savage Hearts. I can't even remember did I put this on my pull list or did I pick it off the shelves, and what made me grab it? I can't remember. I think I probably just grabbed it off the shelves, and maybe it's because I opened it up and looked at the art, and same colorist, interestingly enough, in Lovern Kinderszewski in Norse mythology and in Savage Hearts. And they're both well colored, but the Savage Hearts, Laverne chose very bright, stand out, pop out at you kind of colors, which I think was a good choice for this story, which is, we're sort of plunged in the middle of some fantasy world where some villain is busy stealing, I forget what it was called, some kind of MacGuffin, it's egg-shaped, what do they call it? The most holy artifact. Anyway, there's a bad guy stealing the artifacts, and there's these characters who are wandering through the woods trying to find the same person to get revenge on him for killing this woman, this very savage Conan hyper-muscular woman, killed her lover, and she's looking to get revenge, and she's off with this other couple, and then this weird, I don't know, maybe satyr-like creature falls in love with her from a distance and sort of forces himself upon them as the guide, and he's a super amusing character with really fun way of using language. here, I'm just open this page, so I'm going to read you his dialogue here. A skeptical mind, wishing your companions to demonstrate their frux. Such wisdom will take you far in the jungle, my taciturn tree sap. He keeps having different names for her as he tries to somehow seduce her. They convince themselves that what they have is what they truly desire. But as an expert, I know what they really want. Anyway, delightful characters, fun art. My iPad's telling me I have a low battery. Hopefully we make it. Delightful characters, fun art, and really lively writing. I don't know much about Aubrey Sitterson. That name, Aubrey Sitterson, he sounds to me like someone coming from the 19th century. But I looked him up online, and he looks quite young, and long hair and a beard and that kind of thing. So anyway, a writer to watch, and Savage Hearts, if you like kind of humorous fantasy that plays on a bunch of tropes and just has sort of a lot of silly but fun dialogue, then this is a great book. So that's it. Thought I was going to do it quick.